Then, in the late 1980s, scientists identified a hormone called GLP-1, a natural signal released from the gut after eating. Today, these drugs work like a smart system inside your body. This is not just about weight, it's about how the entire system of the body responds to food, energy, and storage. But what makes the situation unique is something often called the thin fat Indian phenomenon.
This video is made for educational and informational purposes only.
A single injection, once a week, that can help control blood sugar, reduce constant hunger, and in large clinical trials, even lower the risk of heart attacks. It sounds like something out of the future, but as of 2026, this is already a reality in India. And yet, while this medical breakthrough is becoming more accessible than ever, it's also becoming one of the most misunderstood and misused treatments in the country today. To understand why this matters, you have to go back more than a century. In 1906, scientists noticed something unusual. Extracts from the human intestine could lower blood sugar. At that time, the world's focus soon shifted to insulin, and this discovery was almost forgotten. But decades later, researchers came back to the same mystery and uncovered what we now call the incretin effect, a powerful biological response where the body releases more insulin when glucose is consumed orally. Then, in the late 1980s, scientists identified a hormone called GLP-1, a natural signal released from the gut after eating. This hormone acts like a regulator, telling your body when to release insulin, when to slow digestion, and even when to stop feeling hungry. But there was one major problem. Natural GLP-1 survives in the body for barely 2 minutes before it is broken down. That made it almost useless as a direct treatment. So scientists had to find a way to recreate it, something stronger, longer lasting, and medically usable. And surprisingly, the answer came from nature itself. A compound found in the saliva of the Gila monster lizard showed similar effects but lasted much longer. This discovery eventually led to the development of GLP-1 receptor agonist drugs, medications designed to mimic the body's natural hormone but in a controlled and sustained way. Today, these drugs work like a smart system inside your body. They stimulate insulin only when blood sugar is high, which reduces the risk of dangerous drugs. They slow down how quickly your stomach empties, so you feel full longer after eating. They act on the brain to reduce cravings, which is why many people report that food simply loses its emotional grip. And they reduce excess glucose production from the liver, improving overall metabolic balance. This is not just about weight, it's about how the entire system of the body responds to food, energy, and storage. And this is where India becomes a very different story. India is home to over 100 million people with diabetes and hundreds of millions more who are overweight or metabolically at risk. But what makes the situation unique is something often called the thin fat Indian phenomenon. Many people may appear normal by BMI standards, yet carry higher levels of visceral fat around the organs, lower muscle mass, and a higher risk of metabolic disease. In simple terms, someone who looks fit on the outside may still be at significant risk internally. Now, in 2026, the situation has reached a turning point. With patent changes and the entry of multiple pharmaceutical manufacturers, the cost of these medications in India has dropped significantly, by as much as 70 to 80% in some cases. What once cost over 10,000 rupees per month may now be available in the range of 3,000 to 5,000 rupees. That shift is making these drugs more accessible, but it is also increasing the risk of misuse. Because here's the part that most people are not being told clearly. These are not lifestyle products. These are not cosmetic shortcuts. These are prescription medications designed for specific medical conditions such as type 2 diabetes and clinical obesity. Using them without proper evaluation, without understanding your metabolic health, or without medical supervision can lead to real harm. And in India, there have already been warnings about unauthorized sales and improper use. In clinical studies, these medications have shown significant benefits. Some trials have demonstrated weight loss in the range of 10 to 20% of total body weight over time. others have shown improvements in blood sugar control, reductions in blood pressure, and even a measurable decrease in major cardiovascular events like heart attacks and strokes. But it is important to understand that these results come from carefully monitored medical settings, where patients are selected appropriately, doses are adjusted gradually, and side effects are managed under professional guidance. Because, like any powerful treatment, there are side effects. The most common ones include nausea, vomiting, changes in bowel habits like diarrhea or constipation, and a feeling of bloating. These usually happen because the drug slows down digestion and affects appetite signals in the brain. For many people, these symptoms improve over a few weeks as the body adjusts. But there are also rare and serious risks, such as inflammation of the pancreas, gallbladder issues due to rapid weight loss, and specific contraindications in individuals with certain thyroid conditions. This is why medical screening and follow-up are not optional, they are essential. There is also a major misconception that these drugs can replace lifestyle changes. That is not true. Without proper nutrition, especially adequate protein, and without resistance training, rapid weight loss can lead to muscle loss, which is particularly risky in Indian populations that already tend to have lower muscle mass. These medications are designed to support a structured plan, not replace it. Another growing concern is the influence of social media. Dramatic before and after transformations can create the impression that this is an easy solution, but individual results vary, and what you see online often does not reflect the full medical picture, such as the person's health status, supervision, or long-term outcomes. Decisions about treatment should always be made in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional who understands your complete medical history. For those who may benefit, such as individuals with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, clinical obesity, or significant metabolic risk factors, these drugs can be an important part of treatment. But even then, the approach must be personalized. Baseline tests, ongoing monitoring, and clear goals are critical to safe and effective use. At the same time, it's worth remembering that the body already has natural mechanisms that support metabolic health. Diets rich in fiber, regular physical activity, adequate sleep, and stress management all play a role in improving how the body regulates appetite and blood sugar. While these may not replicate the effects of medication, they remain the foundation of long-term health. This is why the conversation around these drugs in India needs to be balanced. On one hand, they represent one of the most significant advances in metabolic medicine in recent decades. On the other, their rapid popularity has created confusion, unrealistic expectations, and potential risks when used incorrectly. So the real question is not whether these drugs work. The science clearly shows that they can. The real question is whether they are being used in the right way, for the right reasons, and by the right people. Because in a country like India, where metabolic disease often develops silently and early, the difference between benefit and harm might come down to one simple factor: awareness guided by the right medical advice.
This video is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider regarding any medical condition or treatment.